The partner she needed, one who listened, who supported her decisions, and who gave her the space to grow without feeling pressured. The early stages of the expansion project were overwhelming but exciting. Together, they worked on design plans, selecting locations, and meeting with potential investors. Mia was fully immersed in the process, often finding herself staying late into the night, reviewing blueprints, talking to architects, and meeting with contractors. Ethan, with his business acumen, was there to provide guidance when necessary, but he respected Mia's expertise in every step of the way. But what Mia hadn't anticipated was how much this project would change their relationship. It wasn't just about business anymore. They were navigating a new dynamic, a partnership that required vulnerability, trust, and a shared vision for the future. Just as the project was gaining momentum, Mia hit a roadblock she hadn't foreseen. A rival company, led by a high-powered businessman, announced plans to open a new auto repair franchise in the same area where Mia's new shop was slated to open. The news sent shockwaves through the community. The competition would be fierce, and Mia knew that if she didn't act quickly, it could jeopardize everything she had worked for. Frustration bubbled inside her, but she refused to let it show. She sat in her office, staring at the documents in front of her, feeling the weight of the pressure. Ethan had already called to discuss the situation, but Mia hadn't yet picked up. She didn't want to talk about it just yet. She needed to think, to come up with a strategy. Hours passed, and the quiet of the office became overwhelming. Her thoughts spiraled. What if this was the end of her dream? What if she couldn't compete in a world this competitive? Her resolve began to crack under the pressure. It wasn't until Ethan showed up at the shop, unannounced, that Mia's thoughts were interrupted. He walked into the office, his expression gentle but concerned. "Mia," he said softly, his tone laced with worry, "you've been avoiding my calls. I know you're stressed, but we need to talk about the competition." Mia sighed, standing up and walking over to the window. "I know," she muttered, her gaze lost in the view outside. "It's just. I don't know if we're going to make it. I've worked so hard to get here, Ethan. But this guy. He's got resources, connections. I don't know if we can compete." Ethan walked over to her, standing beside her, his presence steady and comforting. "I know it's a setback, but this is exactly why you're the right person for this. You've always had the heart of this business. It's not about competing on the same terms as him. It's about standing out with the things you do best, the personal touch, the community, the values you've built this shop on." Mia looked up at him, her chest tightening. "You're right. But what if it's not enough? What if we fail?" Ethan placed a hand gently on her shoulder, his voice warm and reassuring. "Failure is not an option. But even if things don't go as planned, you won't be alone. We'll face it together. You've built this shop on your own, let's build it bigger, stronger, and even more personal than before. Together." Mia felt the tension in her body loosen, and she exhaled slowly. His words, simple and honest, grounded her in a way she hadn't expected. She had always felt alone in this journey, but with Ethan beside her, maybe there was a way forward. A new strategy. With Ethan's unwavering support, Mia took a deep breath and set to work. She called her team into a meeting the next morning, and together, they brainstormed. They were going to offer something no competitor could. It wasn't just about the repairs, it was about the experience, the connection, and the trust they had built with their customers. They would launch a new marketing campaign, emphasizing Mia's personal involvement in every repair and how much she cared about the customers. She would host a series of workshops, teaching the community about car maintenance and repair, offering them the opportunity to get involved with something hands-on. Mia had always believed in empowering others, and now it was time to use that belief as the cornerstone of her business. Ethan worked with her to secure additional funding to improve the shop's customer service and equipment. He didn't interfere with her decisions but offered practical advice when needed. Together, they made plans to host free community events and support local initiatives. They wouldn't just compete, they would become an integral part of the neighborhood. It was 3 months later, and the grand reopening of the expanded shop was just around the corner. Mia was still working tirelessly, but this time, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. The competitive edge they had created was paying off, and the shop was filling up with loyal customers who appreciated the personal touch they couldn't get anywhere else. Ethan was there every step of the way, helping Mia with the logistics, but never overshadowing her. Their relationship had grown even deeper as they began to understand each other on a more profound level. Mia realized that she didn't have to compromise who she was to grow, she could still build her business while sharing her life with someone who respected her vision. As the grand reopening approached, Mia and Ethan stood together, looking at the transformed shop. The soft light of the afternoon cast a golden glow over them. There was still work to be done, still challenges ahead, but Mia knew one thing for certain: she had come a long way, and she wasn't going to stop now. "I couldn't have done this without you," Mia said, her voice soft but full of gratitude. Ethan smiled, his hand resting gently on her back. "You did it, Mia. I just helped you build the foundation." Mia turned to him, her eyes meeting his with a newfound sense of clarity. "Together," she whispered, smiling. And in that moment, Mia realized that they weren't just building a business. They were building a life where they could both grow, support each other, and create something lasting, together. The expansion of Mia's mechanic shop was a dream in motion, but it wasn't without its challenges. The new location was coming together, and the buzz in the community was palpable. Mia's name had become synonymous with quality and reliability in the auto industry, and people were excited to see what was next. However, the bigger they got, the harder it was to maintain the intimate, personal touch Mia had always provided. Her new space was larger, more modern, and capable of handling more business, but with it came the complexities of managing a larger team, maintaining quality control, and, most importantly, staying true to her vision. Ethan, ever the steady presence, had been an invaluable asset, especially in the business side of things. He handled negotiations with contractors, investors, and suppliers, while Mia continued to focus on what she loved, fixing cars and empowering others through her workshops. But even with Ethan's support, the pressure was mounting. Every decision seemed bigger than the last, and Mia couldn't shake the feeling that she was walking a tightrope. The tension builds. Despite their growing partnership, there was a subtle tension building between Mia and Ethan. It wasn't the kind of tension that came from a lack of trust, it was the kind of tension that comes when two people realize they're not just building a business, but building a life together. The lines between their personal and professional lives were starting to blur, and it was beginning to feel like there was more at stake than just the shop. Mia had always been independent, but now she was learning to share responsibility, not just in business, but in her personal life as well. Ethan, on the other hand, was starting to understand the complexities of being in a relationship with someone as driven and self-sufficient as Mia. He had grown to love the way she took charge, the way she built her dreams with her own hands. But he also realized that she didn't always allow herself to lean on others, especially him. One evening, after a particularly grueling day, Mia sat in her office, going over financial statements. Ethan had promised to join her for dinner, but as usual, she was working late. Her eyes were tired, her mind exhausted from the endless decisions she had to make. She hadn't seen Ethan all day, and even though she knew he was doing his part, a part of her still felt the weight of the responsibility. When Ethan knocked and entered, Mia didn't immediately look up from her papers. She was too caught up in the numbers, too overwhelmed to stop and acknowledge his presence. Ethan, however, could see the tension in her shoulders, the way her fingers gripped the papers like a lifeline. "Mia," he said softly, walking over to her desk. "You need a break. You've been working non-stop." She finally looked up, her eyes filled with exhaustion. "I don't have time for a break, Ethan. There's so much to do. We're on the verge of something huge, and I can't afford to mess this up." Ethan sat down across from her, his expression calm but concerned. "You don't have to do it all alone. I'm here. You've built this, but that doesn't mean you have to carry the weight of it all on your own. Mia's gaze softened, but her pride flared up. I know you're here, but I'm the one who has to make the final call. I'm the one who has to make sure this shop stays true to its roots. Ethan leaned forward, his voice steady. Mia, I know how important it is to you, but we're in this together. I don't want to be a bystander in your life. I want to help you, because I believe in you. But I can't do that if you're not willing to let me in. It was a week later when the breaking point came. Mia had spent countless hours at the new shop, overseeing every detail. Ethan had noticed the signs. She was withdrawing, isolating herself, even though he was there, offering his support. She had taken on more than she could handle, and it was starting to show. One afternoon, while they were discussing the final touches for the opening event, Mia snapped. She was short with him, frustrated by the lack of progress and the mounting pressure. Ethan had asked a simple question about the timeline, and she lashed out. I don't need you to micromanage me, she yelled, slamming the folder of papers onto the desk. I'm doing this on my own, and I don't need anyone telling me what to do. Ethan froze, taken aback by the outburst. He had seen her under stress before, but this was different. It wasn't just frustration, it was something deeper. Mia, I'm not trying to micromanage you, he said, his voice calm but firm. I'm just trying to help. But if you don't want it, then I'll step back. But don't shut me out. We're supposed to be a team. Mia's eyes flashed with anger, but underneath it, there was something else, a deep sadness she had been hiding. She took a step back, shaking her head. I don't know how to let you in, Ethan. I've been doing this on my own for so long. I don't know what it means to let someone else in, to trust them with everything I've worked for. Ethan's expression softened. Mia, you don't have to do it alone anymore. And I'm not here to take over your dreams. I'm here to support you. But I need you to let me in. You can't carry this all on your own, and you don't have to. For a moment, there was silence between them. The tension in the room was palpable, but beneath it, there was a deep longing for understanding, for connection. Mia's eyes softened, and for the first time in a long while, she let herself be vulnerable. I'm scared, she whispered, her voice breaking. I'm scared that if I let go, I'll lose control of everything. This shop is everything to me. I can't let it slip away. Ethan reached across the desk, taking her hand gently in his. You won't lose control, Mia. But you have to trust me. You have to trust us. That night, they sat together in silence, each of them processing the emotions that had come to the surface. Ethan didn't try to fix things immediately. He didn't push her to talk. Instead, he was just there, offering her the space to work through her fears at her own pace. In the days that followed, Mia started to let go, bit by bit. She allowed Ethan to take on more of the logistical side of the business. She delegated responsibilities to her trusted team, and for the first time, she allowed herself to step back and breathe. Their relationship began to deepen once again, built on a foundation of trust, vulnerability, and mutual respect. They had both learned that love was not just about passion and connection. It was about partnership, compromise, and the willingness to grow together. As the grand opening of the new shop approached, Mia knew that the road ahead would still be challenging. But for the first time, she felt ready to face it, not alone, but with Ethan by her side. As the weeks went by, things began to settle. The shop's expansion was finally ready for the grand opening, but there was still so much work to be done. Ethan continued to be the steady support Mia had come to rely on, but now, they were both learning to strike a delicate balance, between their professional lives and their personal connection. The tension they had faced earlier started to dissolve, and with it came an openness neither of them had fully realized they were missing. In the quiet moments when they weren't planning or making business decisions, Mia found herself discovering a new side of Ethan, a side that wasn't about being the CEO, the businessman, or the problem solver, but just him. They started spending more time outside of work, simply being together. One evening, they walked through a small park near the new shop, the streetlights casting long shadows over the path. Ethan had taken Mia's hand, something that felt simple but profound. His touch wasn't just affectionate, it was a reassurance that despite everything they had been through, they were still in this together. As they strolled through the park, talking about everything and nothing, Mia couldn't help but marvel at how different their connection felt now. It wasn't just about business anymore, it was about two people who were discovering, day by day, that they could share their hopes, dreams, and fears without the weight of expectations. "Do you remember when we first met?" Mia asked, looking up at him with a playful smile. Ethan chuckled. "You mean when I was too distracted by your skills to even notice you were probably judging me for being a rich guy who knows nothing about cars?" Mia laughed, squeezing his hand. "Something like that. I don't know, Ethan, there was something about you that I couldn't quite shake. You weren't like the others. I didn't expect you to get under my skin, but here we are." Ethan stopped walking, turning to face her. He lifted her chin gently, his eyes softening as he gazed down at her. "I didn't expect you to change me either. But you did. You've shown me that life isn't all about numbers and deals. It's about the people we let in, the lives we touch, and the moments we share." Mia's heart fluttered, her chest tightening in a way she hadn't expected. "I never thought I'd need someone like you. But now, I can't imagine doing this without you by my side." Ethan smiled, pulling her close, the quiet intimacy of the moment speaking louder than words. "I'm glad you're letting me in. I want to be here for you, not just in the business, but in everything. You don't have to carry this burden alone, Mia." Mia wrapped her arms around him, resting her head on his chest. The moment was simple, but it was everything. It was the security she had never realized she needed, the quiet certainty that they could weather any storm as long as they stood together. In the following weeks, Mia and Ethan's bond deepened. Their days were filled with meetings, planning sessions, and the busy work of getting the shop ready for its opening, but their evenings were for each other. They spent late nights cooking dinner together, talking about everything under the sun, and discovering new things about each other. One Saturday, after a long week of meetings and deadlines, Mia found herself sitting with Ethan in the living room of his apartment. The soft glow of the fireplace flickered, casting shadows on the walls as they shared a bottle of wine. Mia had always been used to being alone, to doing things on her own. But with Ethan beside her, everything felt different. She felt whole. "I don't know what's changed," Mia said softly, swirling the wine in her glass. "I guess I never realized that having someone by your side doesn't mean losing yourself. It means gaining something, someone who's there to build with you, not take from you." Ethan set his glass down, looking at her with deep affection. "That's the key, Mia. I'm not trying to change you. I'm trying to support you. I want us to build something, together. And I think we've been doing just that." Mia smiled, her heart swelling with emotion. She had always thought that her dreams were something she had to protect, something she couldn't share. But with Ethan, she felt like she could still dream big, still have it all, and share it with someone who genuinely cared for her. "I used to be scared," she confessed, her voice soft. "Scared that if I let someone in, I'd lose myself in them. But you've shown me that love isn't about losing yourself. It's about finding someone who can stand beside you and let you stand tall." Ethan's eyes softened as he took her hand in his thumb gently tracing the back of her fingers. "I'll always let you stand tall, Mia. I'll always be here to support you. But I'll also be here for the moments when you need someone to lean on." Mia leaned into him, resting her head on his shoulder as they sat in comfortable silence. She had come so far, not just in building her business, but in building a life she could share with someone else. A life that wasn't about compromise, but about partnership, a love that allowed both of them to grow, together. The grand opening of the new shop was everything Mia had hoped for. The community showed up in full force, eager to see the transformation. The new shop was sleek, modern, and functional, everything Mia had dreamed it could be. But it wasn't just the space that made it special, it was the people, the relationships, and the commitment she had put into making it a success. As Mia stood on the stage, welcoming customers and staff alike, she looked out into the crowd, her heart swelling with pride. She had done this. She had built this. Ethan stood beside her, his hand resting on her back, his presence a steadying force as they looked out at the future together. He had always supported her dreams, but today, he was more than just a business partner. He was her partner in every sense, emotionally, physically, and in every way that mattered. As the crowd cheered, Mia took a deep breath, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. She turned to Ethan, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice full of emotion. "For believing in me. For helping me build this." Ethan smiled, his eyes soft. "I'm not the one who built it, Mia. You did. I'm just lucky to be here with you." They shared a quiet, intimate moment amidst the celebration, their love deepening in a way that words couldn't capture. This was just the beginning for them, together, they could conquer anything. And for the first time, Mia knew that love and business weren't separate worlds. They were intertwined. And as long as they stood side by side, there was nothing they couldn't achieve. The grand opening of the new shop had been a resounding success. Mia stood at the forefront of a dream that had grown bigger than she had ever anticipated. The shop was bustling with energy, customers, staff, and the steady hum of engines being repaired, all blended together into a beautiful cacophony of progress. Yet, despite the joy that came with seeing her vision come to life, there was a part of Mia that felt unsettled. The pressure of managing a larger business, maintaining the personal touch she valued so much, and ensuring everything ran smoothly was starting to take its toll. She found herself staying up late, making decisions that weighed heavily on her, and sometimes questioning if she could truly balance it all. Ethan had noticed the change in her. He had seen her work tirelessly for years, but now, as their business partnership deepened, he also saw the strain it was placing on her. She had never asked for help, but he knew it was time. Time to step in more than just as her partner in business, he had to be her partner in life, too. It was a quiet evening when Ethan, once again in his sharp business suit, sat across from Mia in her office at the shop. She had just finished another meeting and was pouring herself a glass of water, clearly exhausted. The weight of the day was obvious in the slump of her shoulders and the lines beneath her eyes. "Mia," Ethan started gently, his tone filled with a mix of concern and affection. "You're pushing yourself too hard. I see it, and I think it's time we had a serious talk about the future." Mia set the glass down and gave him a tired smile. "I'm fine, Ethan. I've been handling everything just fine. There's a lot to do, but I can do it." Ethan raised an eyebrow, clearly not convinced. "You've been handling it all, but at what cost? I've seen the way you're running yourself ragged. I don't want to watch you burn out." Mia paused, her fingers tracing the edge of the desk. Ethan had always been there for her, offering his help, support, and advice, but she had always refused. Her independence had been her shield, but now, she was beginning to wonder if she had been too proud to let anyone in. "What are you saying, Ethan?" she asked, her voice soft. "I'm saying that it's okay to lean on me," he replied, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "I want us to build something lasting, not just for the shop but for us. And to do that, we need to trust each other fully. I can help, but I need you to let me." Mia's heart raced as his words sank in. She had always prided herself on being self-sufficient, on not needing anyone. But in this moment, the vulnerability she had kept hidden for so long began to surface. She had never let herself depend on anyone, but maybe that was the next step in their journey together. "I don't know how to let go," Mia admitted, her voice breaking slightly. "I don't know how to ask for help." Ethan reached across the desk, taking her hand in his. "You don't have to do it alone, Mia. Let's build this together. I'm here for all of it, business, life, the good days and the bad. Over the next few months, things began to shift for both of them. Mia still took the lead in the shop, but she started to trust Ethan with more of the logistical and financial aspects of the business. He handled the meetings with investors, managed the finances, and worked closely with her team to ensure everything ran smoothly. For the first time in a long while, Mia felt the weight lighten. She could focus on what she truly loved, working directly with her customers, running the workshops, and mentoring young women who were interested in the trade. Ethan became an extension of her vision, not a replacement for it. They also began spending more time together outside of the shop. They took weekend trips, exploring new places and talking about everything from their childhoods to their dreams for the future. Each moment felt like a piece of the puzzle falling into place. Their relationship, too, began to evolve. It wasn't just about business anymore, it was about truly seeing each other. Ethan started to realize just how strong Mia was, and how much she had fought for everything she had. And Mia saw a side of Ethan that wasn't just about success or power, he had a quiet, unwavering loyalty that she hadn't fully recognized until now. One evening, as they sat together in Mia's office, the shop quiet and empty for the night, Ethan turned to her with a thoughtful expression. "Mia," he began, his voice soft. "We've been through a lot together, building this shop, facing challenges, and learning how to trust each other. But I think I'm ready for the next step. I want to ask you something." Mia looked up from the papers she had been reviewing, her heart picking up speed. "What's that?" Ethan paused, his gaze never leaving hers. "I want to build a future with you. Not just with the shop, but with us. I love you, Mia. And I want us to have something real, something lasting. Will you marry me?" The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Mia's breath caught in her throat as she processed what he was saying. She had never expected this moment, but in her heart, she realized she had been hoping for it without even knowing. Tears welled up in her eyes as she looked at him, feeling everything she had built and everything they had shared come together in that moment. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Yes, Ethan. Yes." Their engagement was a quiet one. They didn't make a big announcement or throw a lavish celebration. Instead, they shared the news with their closest friends and family, and the joy that followed was simple but heartfelt. In the months that followed, Mia and Ethan continued to grow together, both in business and in love. Their wedding was a small, intimate affair, held at a charming venue surrounded by nature. The ceremony was simple, but the love between them was undeniable. Ethan had always been there for her, and now, as they stood together, promising to face whatever came their way, Mia felt more complete than she ever had before. As they danced their first dance as husband and wife, Mia's heart swelled with gratitude. She had built her life from the ground up, and now, with Ethan by her side, she knew that they could build anything together. There would still be challenges ahead, but for the first time, Mia didn't feel like she had to face them alone. They had found something real, something lasting, and together, they would continue to build their future, one step at a time. Months passed since their engagement, and Mia and Ethan had settled into a new rhythm. Their partnership, both in business and in life, had found a balance that allowed them to thrive. The shop continued to grow, gaining more clients and becoming a trusted name in the community. Mia's workshops for women in the trade were thriving, and the mentorship program she had started was expanding beyond her wildest dreams. They had faced the early hurdles together, tough decisions, late nights, and balancing their love with the responsibilities of running a business. But in all of it, they had built something they were both proud of. Mia had always dreamed of expanding the business, of offering something more to the community, but now, with Ethan by her side, the vision was clearer than ever. They began to talk about opening additional locations, creating a network of community-driven auto shops that combined their expertise and passion for giving back. But as with every dream, new challenges arose. The pressure to expand meant making more difficult decisions. They had to hire more staff, negotiate with new investors, and rethink their strategy for scaling while maintaining the personal, hands-on approach that had defined the shop from the beginning. Late one evening, as they sat in Mia's office once again, the weight of those decisions began to take hold. Ethan, ever the pragmatic one, was going through financial reports, while Mia stared out the window, deep in thought. "Mia," Ethan said quietly, breaking the silence. "What do you think about all of this? Are we ready for this next step?" Mia sighed, turning to face him. "I think we are. But I also think we're about to face some of the biggest challenges yet. We can't lose sight of why we started this in the first place. It's not just about growing a business, it's about making a difference." Ethan smiled, his eyes full of pride. "That's what I love about you. You never forget what matters most." It wasn't long after their conversation that Mia's world was shaken again. She was in the middle of a meeting with her team when a visitor arrived, someone she hadn't seen in years. It was her estranged father, Michael Clark. He stood in the doorway of her office, looking older than she remembered, a little worn but with the same stern expression she had seen many times growing up. Mia froze, caught off guard. She hadn't heard from him in over 5 years, and his sudden appearance brought a rush of emotions that she wasn't prepared for. "Mia," he said, his voice surprisingly soft. "Can we talk?" The room grew tense, and Mia felt her heart race. She hadn't seen him since he walked out of their lives when she was a teenager. The resentment, the hurt, it all came flooding back. But there was also a part of her that longed for closure, for answers. Ethan, who had been sitting beside Mia, stood up immediately, sensing the gravity of the situation. "Mia, if you need me, I'll step outside," he said, his voice filled with understanding. Mia nodded, not sure how to process what was happening. As Ethan stepped out of the room, she looked at her father, her mind torn between anger and the hope that perhaps, after all these years, they could finally have an honest conversation. "I don't know what you're doing here," Mia said, her voice steady but cold. "After all this time, you think you can just show up?" Her father's eyes softened, and he took a hesitant step forward. "I never meant to hurt you, Mia. I've made a lot of mistakes, and I know I can't undo the past. But I'm here now, and I want to make things right. I want to help you with this shop, your dream. I'm not asking for forgiveness, but I want to be part of your life again." Mia's mind was a whirlwind. The years of abandonment, of having to build everything on her own, were not so easily forgotten. But in the depths of her heart, a part of her yearned for reconciliation. She had spent so long proving she could succeed without him. Could she really let him back in now? After a long conversation, Mia realized that the answers she had been looking for didn't come in the form of her father's words, they came from within herself. She had built her life on her own terms, not because of him, but in spite of him. She had created a business, a life, and a love that had nothing to do with his presence or absence. "Mia," her father said, as the meeting came to a close, "I know I've failed you, but I want to be a part of your future, even if just in some small way. I see what you've built, and I'm proud of you. I want to help, not to control, but to support." Mia took a deep breath, her heart heavy with conflicting emotions. She had spent years building walls around herself, protecting herself from the very people who had hurt her. But here, standing before her, was the man who had walked out on her. Could she allow herself to trust him again? "I appreciate that," Mia said slowly, her voice quiet but resolute. "But I've built this on my own. I've worked too hard to let anyone dictate what happens next." Her father nodded, a mixture of regret and understanding on his face. "I get it. I've missed so much time, and I can't change that. But if you ever need anything, if you ever want to build something together, just know I'm here." Mia didn't respond immediately. Instead, she sat quietly, processing the weight of the conversation. Her life, her business, and her future were hers to decide. She didn't need anyone's approval or help to succeed. But maybe, just maybe, there was room for forgiveness, for her own sake. As her father left the office, Mia sat in silence. Ethan returned, sensing the emotional weight of what had just transpired. He didn't ask questions, didn't push for answers. Instead, he sat down beside her and took her hand in his. "You're not alone in this," Ethan said softly, his voice unwavering. "Whatever comes next, we'll face it together." Mia leaned into him, feeling the weight of the moment settle within her. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, she felt ready to face it, with Ethan by her side. Face it together. Mia leaned into him, feeling the weight of the moment settle within her. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, she felt ready to face it, with Ethan by her side. The days following her father's unexpected visit were a whirlwind of emotions for Mia. Her father's return had shaken the foundation of her world, just when she thought she had finally built something strong, something lasting. The scars of abandonment she had hidden deep inside her were suddenly brought to the surface, and she found herself questioning everything she had built. Ethan noticed the change in her, the way she withdrew into herself, and the way her thoughts seemed distant even when they were together. She had always been the strong one, the one who didn't need anyone, but now, she seemed torn between wanting to heal and protect herself from further pain. Ethan was patient, knowing that Mia needed time. He respected her space but made sure to remind her that he was there whenever she needed him. He was the one person in her life who hadn't let her down, who had shown her what true partnership was. And now, as they stood on the brink of something bigger, he was ready to face whatever came their way. It wasn't long after her father's visit that Mia was faced with another unexpected challenge, an offer to sell her business. A well-known corporate auto repair chain had been keeping an eye on Mia's shop's success. They had been impressed with her community involvement, her growing customer base, and the impact she had made in a relatively short amount of time. The offer came with an enticing sum of money, along with promises of expansion, nationwide recognition, and the possibility of taking her business to new heights. Mia had heard the proposal, listened to the promises, but something inside her refused to entertain the idea. This shop, her dream, was more than just a business. It was her identity. It was the foundation of everything she had worked for. Selling it would mean letting go of a part of herself. Ethan could see the internal battle she was fighting. He knew this was a decision that could change everything, but he also knew that whatever decision Mia made, he would stand by her. He was there not just as her partner in business, but as her partner in life. One evening, as they sat together in the quiet of Mia's office, the weight of the decision pressing down on her, Ethan looked at her with unwavering support. "You don't have to decide right now," he said gently, his voice filled with compassion. "Whatever you choose, we'll face it together." Mia took a deep breath, her fingers running over the edges of the paperwork in front of her. She had spent so long building this, nurturing it, and now it felt like the world was asking her to give it up for the promise of something bigger. But was bigger always better? "Ethan," Mia began, her voice shaky but resolute, "I've worked too hard to let go of this. This shop is a part of me, and I can't sell it for something that isn't mine. I want to build something bigger, but I want to do it on my own terms. I don't want to lose what makes this business, our business, special." Ethan smiled, his eyes full of pride. "I've never been prouder of you, Mia. You're not just building a business. You're building a legacy." The proposal from her father. A few days later, Mia's father called again. This time, there was no anger or hurt in his voice, just a quiet sincerity. "I know we left things unfinished between us," he began, "and I don't expect you to forgive me right away. But I'm here because I want to help you. I know I can't undo the past, but if you ever decide you want help with this expansion, or with anything, I'm willing to invest. It's not about controlling you, it's about supporting your dream." Mia's heart was heavy as she listened to him. She had spent years being angry, resentful of the man who had walked away from her. And now, here he was, asking for a chance to be part of her future. She wasn't sure what to say. She had spent so long building walls around herself, walls that had kept her strong and independent. But now, she realized that perhaps it was time to let a little of that go. She didn't have to accept his offer right away, but maybe there was room for something different, a chance for them to rebuild what had been lost. "I appreciate the offer," Mia said softly, her voice steady but emotional. "I'll think about it. But this is my business. I built it, and I want to decide where it goes next." Her father's voice softened. "I respect that, Mia. I just want to be a part of your future. Whenever you're ready, I'll be here. Facing the future together." In the end, Mia decided to continue on her own path, refusing the corporate buyout and choosing to build her dream on her terms. She knew that it wouldn't be easy, but she also knew that the journey was hers to define. She wasn't going to let anyone take control of her vision, not her father, not the corporate world, and certainly not the pressure to grow too quickly. Instead, Mia and Ethan focused on making the business stronger, finding ways to expand without compromising their values. They started to look at other locations for new workshops and began partnering with local schools to offer training for young people interested in the automotive trade. Mia's commitment to empowering others continued to fuel her passion, and she was determined to create a legacy that was built on hard work, community, and authenticity. Ethan, by her side, was more than just a business partner. He was her equal, her confidant, and her partner in every sense. As they moved forward, the bond they shared deepened. Their love was no longer just about overcoming challenges, it was about growing together, trusting each other, and building something that would last a lifetime. One evening, as they stood on the rooftop of their apartment, looking out over the city, Ethan took Mia's hand in his. "You know," he said softly, "there's nothing we can't do together. You've proven that to me time and time again." Mia smiled, her heart full. "Together," she whispered, "we've already built so much." And as they looked toward the horizon, the future felt wide open. There was no limit to what they could achieve, together. As the months passed, Mia and Ethan continued to work tirelessly on the shop and its expansion plans. The decision to reject the corporate buyout had given Mia a renewed sense of purpose. She wasn't just managing a business, she was building a legacy, and the weight of that responsibility was both empowering and daunting. There were moments when the pressure of being a business owner and a partner began to wear on her. She wasn't used to relying on anyone else, and even though Ethan had been there every step of the way, she still felt the need to prove herself, to show that she could handle everything. She took on more than she should have, handling both the creative aspects of the business and the administrative side. As a result, her health and well-being began to suffer. Ethan noticed the shift. He had always known how strong and independent Mia was, but he also knew that she couldn't continue at this pace without burning out. He had tried to step in, but Mia, ever stubborn, refused to ask for help. She wanted to carry the weight alone, afraid that if she didn't, she would lose herself in the process. One evening, after another long day, Ethan sat down across from Mia in their small apartment. He watched her, her tired eyes scanning through reports and figures, the weight of the world on her shoulders. "Mia," he began softly, his voice gentle but firm, "this isn't sustainable. You're pushing yourself too hard, and I can see it. You're not giving yourself the space to breathe." Mia didn't look up from the papers. "I'm fine, Ethan. I've got everything under control." Ethan reached across the table, gently taking the papers from her hands. "No, you don't. You can't keep running at this pace without something giving. You're running on empty, and I'm afraid that if you don't stop, you're going to lose everything, not just the business, but yourself." Mia felt a lump form in her throat. She didn't want to hear it, but deep down, she knew Ethan was right. She had been running from one task to the next, too afraid to pause and face the reality that she couldn't do it all alone. "I don't know how to stop," she admitted quietly. "I don't know how to ask for help." Ethan's expression softened, and he stood up, walking around to her side. He gently cupped her face in his hands, his thumb brushing away a tear that had escaped down her cheek. "You don't have to do it all alone, Mia," he said softly. "I'm here, always. And you don't have to prove anything to me. I want to be by your side, not just in business, but in life. You don't have to carry everything." Mia closed her eyes, letting his words wash over her. She had been so afraid of losing herself, of giving up her independence, that she had pushed away the one person who truly wanted to be there for her. But in this moment, with Ethan's hands on her face, she realized that letting him in didn't mean losing herself, it meant growing together, supporting each other, and trusting that they could face anything as a team. In the weeks that followed, Mia took a step back. She delegated tasks to her trusted team members and allowed herself the space to rest and recharge. It was difficult for her at first, letting go of control was never easy, but with Ethan's encouragement, she began to see the benefits of trusting others and sharing the load. The shop continued to run smoothly, and Mia found that by allowing herself to step back, she could focus more on the creative aspects of her business, the things that made her passionate. Ethan handled the administrative side with ease, offering his expertise without overshadowing her vision. Together, they created a partnership that was grounded in mutual respect, trust, and love. They also found time for each other outside of the business. Their relationship, once defined by the weight of their professional lives, began to shift back to what it had been in the beginning, a love built on shared experiences, laughter, and quiet moments together. One weekend, they took a trip to the coast, a much-needed escape from the chaos of the shop. They walked along the beach, their hands intertwined, the sound of the waves crashing in the background. Mia closed her eyes, letting the breeze wash over her, and for the first time in a long while, she felt at peace. "Thank you," she whispered, turning to Ethan with a soft smile. "For being here. For helping me find balance." Ethan pulled her close, his arms wrapped around her. "Always, Mia. I'll always be here. We're in this together, no matter what." As their relationship and business continued to grow, Mia realized that the road ahead would still have its challenges. There would be setbacks, moments of doubt, and obstacles they would have to overcome together. But she also knew that they had something special, a foundation of trust, love, and support that could withstand anything life threw their way. One evening, as they sat together in the quiet of their office, Mia turned to Ethan with a thoughtful expression. "We've come so far," she said, her voice filled with awe. "I never imagined I'd be here, building something this big. And I never imagined I'd find someone like you." Ethan smiled, his hand resting on hers. "I've always believed in you, Mia. From the moment I met you, I knew you were destined for something great. And now, we get to build that together." Mia leaned in, her lips brushing against his. "Together," she whispered, the word carrying the weight of everything they had built, and everything they still would. As they kissed, Mia realized that she had finally found the balance she had been searching for, between her dreams, her business, and the love that had transformed her life. Together, they had built something strong and lasting, and with each passing. The months following Mia and Ethan's decision to grow the business without selling it were some of the most fulfilling of their lives. Together, they had built a thriving community-based auto shop, with a strong emphasis on mentorship, empowerment, and building long-lasting relationships with customers. The expansion was slow but steady, each new location carefully thought out, each decision made with both vision and heart. The growth of their business was a reflection of the growth of their relationship. As they faced challenges together, their bond deepened. The dynamic between them shifted from business partners to something more profound, two people who understood and respected each other's strengths and vulnerabilities. They had become an inseparable team, not only in the shop but in life. Yet, as with every success, new challenges appeared. Competition was fierce, and while their community-driven approach had garnered them loyalty, they were now competing with larger, more established companies who had more resources to pour into marketing and advertising. Mia and Ethan knew that in order to stay ahead, they had to think outside the box. One evening, as they sat in their office discussing the future, Ethan leaned back in his chair, his eyes thoughtful. "Mia," he said, breaking the silence, "I've been thinking about how we can make our mark in this industry, not just in the community, but across the entire city. What if we offered something no one else does? Something that can set us apart from the corporate shops that don't have the heart we do?" Mia leaned forward, intrigued. She had always prided herself on being different from the larger companies, but Ethan's idea had sparked something within her. "What do you have in mind?" she asked, her curiosity piqued. "We know the importance of personal relationships," Ethan began, his voice steady with conviction. "What if we opened a by-appointment-only service for premium, high-end cars? We could offer them a level of care and attention that no other shop can provide, tailored services, fast response times, and direct communication with the mechanics themselves." Mia thought about it for a moment, her mind racing with possibilities. She had always wanted to bring something innovative to the industry, and this could be the perfect opportunity. The idea of catering to the high-end market without losing the personal touch they had built their reputation on was exciting. "I love it," Mia said, a smile spreading across her face. "It's a way to differentiate ourselves from the competition while maintaining our core values. But we'll need to expand our team. It's not just about the mechanics, it's about offering an experience that makes customers feel valued." Ethan nodded. "Exactly. We'll need a small but skilled team who understands that we're not just fixing cars, we're building relationships. If we can combine our expertise with personalized service, we'll be able to stand out." The next few weeks were filled with planning, hiring, and organizing. They brought in a select group of mechanics who not only had the technical skills but also shared their vision for customer service. Mia and Ethan spent long hours ensuring that every detail was in place, from the design of the new service space to the training of their team on how to offer the premium experience. The high-end service was launched quietly, without much fanfare. They wanted to test the concept before going public. As the appointments came in, Mia and Ethan personally oversaw each one, making sure everything was running smoothly. It wasn't long before word began to spread. Customers who had experienced the new service returned with glowing reviews, and the appointments began to fill up faster than they could keep up with. The demand grew, and Mia and Ethan realized that they were on the verge of something big. But they also knew that rapid growth came with its own set of challenges. "We're growing faster than we anticipated," Mia said one evening as they sat together, reviewing customer feedback and appointment logs. "It's exciting, but it's also overwhelming. I don't want to lose the personal touch that made us special in the first place." Ethan reached across the desk, taking her hand. "We'll never lose that. We just need to be careful and deliberate about how we grow. We've built something amazing, and I believe we can scale it without sacrificing what matters." Despite their growing success, Mia couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the edge of something even bigger. But with that came a deep fear, the fear of losing control. She had spent so many years building the shop into what it was, and now, as they began to take on new projects and grow their customer base, she felt like the foundation she had so carefully built was being stretched in ways she wasn't sure she was ready for. One night, after a particularly long day at the shop, Mia sat on the balcony of their apartment, staring out at the city. Ethan joined her, sensing her unease. "You've been quiet lately," he said, sitting beside her. "What's on your mind?" Mia took a deep breath, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "I just don't want to lose control. We've grown so much, and it's been amazing. But sometimes, I feel like I'm not the one steering this ship anymore. I don't want to give up what made this business mine." Ethan placed his hand on hers, offering a reassuring squeeze. "You're still the one steering this ship, Mia. We're in this together. I trust you, and I believe in you. And I think it's time you start trusting yourself a little more, too." Mia turned to look at him, her eyes softening. "I don't know how to let go, Ethan. How to let others in and trust them with something so important to me." Ethan smiled gently. You don't have to do it all alone. You've shown me that you're capable of anything, Mia. But you don't have to carry everything on your own. And I'll be here, by your side, every step of the way. Mia felt a wave of relief wash over her. For the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to rest in his words. The fear of losing control wasn't about the business, it was about learning to trust the people around her, especially Ethan. As the weeks passed, Mia began to let go of some of the control she had clung to so tightly. She delegated more tasks to her team, trusting them to handle the day-to-day operations while she focused on the bigger picture. The business continued to grow, but more importantly, her relationship with Ethan deepened. They were no longer just business partners, they were partners in life. One evening, as they sat on the roof of their apartment, looking at the city lights below, Mia turned to Ethan. "I think we're ready for the next step," she said softly, her voice full of conviction. Ethan looked at her, his eyes warm with pride. "I couldn't agree more. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together." And as they sat side by side, the future felt wide open, filled with endless possibilities and the promise of growth, love, and success. After months of carefully navigating the growing pains of expansion, Mia and Ethan stood at the cusp of something bigger. Their shop had grown from a small, local business to a trusted name in the community, and the high-end services they offered had proven to be a successful move. The digital transition they had implemented had streamlined their operations, and the reputation they had built for themselves had begun to catch the attention of other businesses and investors. However, as with every success, new challenges were beginning to surface. Mia had always known that scaling a business meant more than just success, it meant having to make tough decisions, face competition from larger companies, and constantly innovate to stay ahead. But the pressure of maintaining their values while growing the business was beginning to weigh heavily on her. Ethan could see the strain on Mia. He knew her well enough to recognize when she was pushing herself too hard, and this time, it seemed like she was overwhelmed by the scope of everything they were trying to accomplish. "Mia," Ethan said one night as they sat in their office, looking over the plans for the new location, "I can see how hard you're working. But you don't have to do it all alone. We've built something incredible, but it's okay to lean on others. We've got a team now, people who believe in our vision just as much as we do. Let's trust them more." Mia sighed, looking at the documents in front of her. She had always been used to doing things herself, she prided herself on her independence. One afternoon, as Mia and Ethan stood in front of their newest location, looking at the busy workshop, Mia felt a wave of pride wash over her. They had weathered so many storms, and yet, here they were, standing stronger than ever. "We did it," Mia said, her voice filled with awe. Ethan smiled, standing beside her. "We did it. And we'll keep doing it, together." Mia felt her heart swell with gratitude. The road ahead was still uncertain, and there would always be challenges. But as long as they continued to stay true to their mission, to their community, and to each other, she knew they could overcome anything. They had built something truly special, not just a business, but a legacy. Please subscribe for more. Thank you.